Marge, this ticket doesn't just give me a seat. It also gives me the right, no, the duty to make a complete ass of myself.
But as for me, I'm off to battle aliens on a faraway planet.
Hello, operator, give me the number for 911.
Who sent you here? Can't talk, little man? Bet can't play none either.
I could pull a better cartoon out of my ass. Hey, whoa! Wasn't that great, kid?
Oh, bitch, bitch, bitch.
Kill my boss! Do I dare live out the American dream?
Beer. Oh, there's only one can of beer left, and it's Bart.
Overload. Pleasure overload.
Uh-oh. 2 independent thought alarms in one day.
Oh, for the love of God! Somebody get the jaws of life!
Hello. Good morning, Woodticks and Patriots. You have the Just Jim show on WPEG.net, your dose of reality network. Hey, there's lots to talk about today, and I tell you, every time I come on the air, I tell you outright, you can't make this stuff up. We got so much going on. I was going to talk about Europe a little bit today, and I'll just mention it in passing. Greece had its credit rating upgraded, and why would I worry about Greece? Why would any Woodtick or Patriot worry about what's going on in Greece? Guess what? They took all their money, didn't they? Oh, knock on wood, that'll never happen in America, right? Just like about a lot of other things that won't happen in America. Hey, and a headline today, CNN blows a huge hole in the GOP efforts to prosecute Benghazi scandal. We'll talk about that. And, of course, corrupt Obama, their administration, the EPA waived fee requests for friendly groups and denied conservative groups looking for that ever-elusive tax-exempt status, 501c4. And, of course, how can we not spend some time talking about that Doctor of Death out in Philadelphia? Kermit Gosnell found guilty. And, the interesting part of that whole mess is that he was able to make a plea bargain to save his sorry ass from hitting the gas chamber. We'll talk about that. There's, I've got any number of articles running that up. And there's an interesting article we'll talk about telling from the Catholic side of the world, talking about that's a good thing, that he will be spared, his life will be spared. I got mixed feelings on that one. Anyway, this is Just Jim in the morning on the Just Jim Show, broadcasting live from the bunker at Lake Wish I Be Gone, where nothing works, nothing ever will work. Our leaders are not leading, and our children are failing miserably, and then they leave. Okay, we'll be right back after this commercial break. And as always, we're going to start with the Pledge of Allegiance.
Getting back to school, I remember a teacher that I had. Now, I went through the 7th grade. I went to the 7th grade. I left home when I was 10 years old because I was hungry. And I used to, this is true. I work in the summer and I go to school in the winter. But I had this one teacher. He was the principal of the Harrison School in Vincennes, Indiana. To me, this was the greatest teacher, a real sage of my time, anyhow. He had such wisdom. And we were all reciting the Pledge of Allegiance one day. And he walked over, this little old teacher. Mr. Laswell was his name. Mr. Laswell. He says, I've been listening to you boys and girls recite the Pledge of Allegiance all semester, and it seems as though it's becoming monotonous to you. If I may I recite it and try to explain to you the meaning of each word? I, me, an individual, a committee of one, pledge. Dedicate all of my worldly goods to give without self allegiance, my love and my devotion to the flag, our standard, oh glory, a symbol of freedom. Wherever she waves, there's respect, because your loyalty has given her a dignity that shouts freedom is everybody's job. United, That means that we have all come together. States, individual communities that have united into 48 great states. 48 individual communities with pride and dignity and purpose. All divided with imaginary boundaries, yet united to a common purpose. And that's love for country. And to the republic, a state in which sovereign power is invested in representatives chosen by the people to govern. And government is the people. And it's from the people to the leaders, not from the leaders to the people, for which it stands. One nation, meaning so blessed by God, indivisible, incapable of being divided, with liberty, which is freedom, the right of power to live one's own life without threats, fear, or some sort of retaliation. And justice, the principle or qualities of dealing fairly with others. For all, which means, boys and girls, it's as much your country as it is mine. And now, boys and girls, let me hear you recite the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Since I was a small boy, 2 states have been added to our country, and 2 words have been added to the Pledge of Allegiance: under God. Wouldn't it be a pity if someone said that is a prayer, and that would be eliminated from schools too?
Our underwriters, because they're the ones who care enough to bring you this program. At Hode Gun and Loan, you'll find one of the largest selections of new and used guns in the Northwoods. Beretta, Ruger, and Springfield Armory, rifles, pistols, and black powder. At Hode Gun and Loan, your gun and ammo needs are covered. We buy gold and jewelry too, and right now we're paying the highest prices in the Northwoods for your gold. Located at 915 Lincoln Street in
support our underwriters. After all, they're the ones that keep us bringing this program to you.
Do you need a safe and secure place to keep your personal property? Do you want 24-hour lit access to your mini warehouse? Do you want your own lock on your storage unit? Conveniently located at 1647 Menominee Drive in Rhinelander, Wisconsin, Cedarwood Mini Warehousing has exactly what you're looking for in short and long-term storage units. With nearly 200 storage units that provide safe and secure storage for your personal property, Cedarwood Mini Warehousing and Storage will meet all your storage needs with their short-term and long-term rental contracts. Storage units come in sizes from 4 to 6 foot to 12 by 16 for your large personal and household items. For a limited time, get 1 month free with a 6-month paid rental contract. Call 715-366-2260 today to see about availability and current monthly specials. From big to small, we store it all. Call 715-366-2260 today. Prices subject to availability.
WPEG.net Television Network.
That's right. Welcome back to the Just Jim Show in the morning in the Northwoods, all you patriots and wood ticks. You know, this constantly amazes me, day after day, hour after hour, how all this stuff just shows up anonymously. Some reporter gets a lead, an email, or a tip hotline, you know. I got a hotline, too. Oh, by the way, if you want to call in and talk about anything today, 855-490-2300. That's toll free. And it'll take you right into the studio here. We'll get you on the air if there's something important that you want to talk about, that I'm talking about. Today's not a call-in anything day, but that's tomorrow. But anyway, CNN shows up in the middle of this Benghazi scandal, and Jake Trapper shows up with an email that suggests as proof that the White House was more interested in removing references to possible terrorist attack in the now infamous, I love how they use the word infamous, Benghazi talking points, and they weren't telling the truth to the American people. Well, you know, I don't know. The actual email written in the days following the Benghazi attack reveals something else entirely. We now know that whoever leaked the contents of the email to various media outlets leaked. I thought most people went to the bathroom to do their leaking, but it's from Wiki on down the road. Is it a leak, or is it actually a push for freedom of the press, freedom of speech, to say this is the truth? Now, I'm not defending this email and or its legitimacy and what's all going on. Misquoted the document. Media outlets last week seriously misquoted the document, choosing to paraphrase the content in a way that made it appear that the White House was focused on protecting the State Department's back and covering up information. Recall that ABC's news fueled the GOP cries of a White House cover-up when suggesting that the 12 drafts of the talking points were done with White House participation as part of an effort by the old boy administration to back here's a relevant portion of the ABC story. In an email dated 9/14/12 at 9:34 p.m., 3 days after the attack. Now, this is what Obama came out yesterday and stood and talked about, that where the press or the AP. Oh, wait a minute, the AP. Isn't that something going on with the AP right now? Oh, yeah. That 3 days after the attack, and 2 days before Ambassador Rice appeared on the Sunday shows, Deputy National Security Advisor Ben Rhodes wrote an email saying that the State Department's concerns needed to be addressed. ABC then quotes the email as saying, "We must make sure that the talking points reflect all agency equities, including those of the State Department, and we don't want to undermine the FBI investigation. We thus will work through the talking points tomorrow morning at the Deputies Committee meeting." Now they're saying that the thing is, it turns out that the actual email tells a very different tale. Now remember, since the AP now has found out that 20 phone lines have been tapped, records have been gotten via subpoena by the State Department, Justice Department, everybody is scurrying to cover their proverbial rear ends. CNN is no different. So they're trying to be a friend to the administration and blow off the Benghazi investigation, where 4 of our patriots died, in my opinion, needlessly. Their death may not have been preventable. I shouldn't say that. Their death was preventable through proper security channels and defense mechanisms that should have been in place. Now, there's also a sidetrack here, a little sidebar on this. So there's also scuttlebutt now talking about that the ambassador may have been in the middle of a gun-running operation, much like Fast and Furious, that has just vaporized. And nobody's talking about that. Well, of course, why would you talk about it? You got Holder carrying an executive pen in his back pocket. Nobody wants to touch Holder. I mean, everybody wants to touch him, but nobody can get at him. But anyway, Trapper's talking about this email. Sorry to be late, and here's a commentary all. Sorry to be late to this discussion. We need to resolve this in a way that respects all the relevant equities, particularly the investigation. This is coming through from Ben Rhodes. There's a ton, these are quotes, there's a ton of wrong information getting out into the public domain from Congress and people who are not particularly informed. Insofar as we have firmed up assessments that we don't compromise intel or the investigation, we need to have the compatibility to correct the record, as there are significant policy and messaging ramifications that would flow from the hardened misimpression. We can take this up tomorrow morning at deputies' meeting. There is a link to the actual email. If you go over to CNN, you can find that link that I'm talking about. Reveals absolutely no effort on the part of the administration to whitewash the message regarding the possible involvement of organized terrorist groups. Well, that's not quite true. And if I were in the IT business, I think I would be searching email records, what they call cable records, and looking at timelines on those things, because they're all time-stamped. You know exactly, the computers know exactly what path they traveled and when they traveled it. That, to me, is the easiest and should be requested by the people doing the investigation, the oversight committee. Because as everybody keeps talking, the information continues to grow and grow and grow. And if this was that important, the actual transmissions, as far as I'm concerned, this should have been out in the first oversight meeting or investigation. There's no reason to withhold this type of information. It doesn't. That email, as what I'm reading here, has absolutely no bearing on national security. While there have been administrators testifying and key personnel that were on the ground testifying that the initial reports by Susan Rice on those Sunday shows was exactly what the investigation didn't need. There's been some insinuations and testimony given that says it took almost, 9 or 19 days for the FBI to even gain access to the crime scene, to the actual Benghazi compound. If you're investigating something of this nature with loss of life, your diplomatic ties, this begs to say, if your diplomatic ties are that shaky or on that kind of shaky ground, that you cannot guarantee that you can have access to secure a place either by the government at the foreign embassy or compound or by security personnel that you provide as a territory of the United States. If that's our compound, that's as an embassy, it becomes a part of our country. This would have been American soil. And to put key personnel grossly underarmed, not grossly undertrained, but grossly underarmed, and then left to be there by themselves to die, is I don't know where that comes from in our American way of life and thinking. Obviously, this administration feels entirely different about that, and it sends its key people out there. Interesting, the one question that I think everybody has to ask is, why does Susan Rice show up at Sunday morning shows to talk about whatever? We have a Secretary of State. There's an undersecretary. And it seems to me that this whole fiasco, Carney cannot wait to walk out in front of a microphone and go blah, 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 blah. If he's the mouthpiece for the White House, just give him the script and let him go under the bus. Why would an administration sidestep the key people who were supposed to be in charge of this, Secretary of State, Panetta, Secretary of Defense, keep them from attending press conferences or sending their deputies? That's why they have either undersecretaries or deputies of a department. they're the ones that go out and take the hits. If you're protecting a top-level senior official, so be it. Hell, you could have sent Jeff Dunham out with his puppets and had the vice president do the talking. If you're watching on the TV side over here on Ustream, you'll know what I'm talking about. You could have sent him out there. I have too much fun. There's so much out there that you can just have fun with. Sorry for those listening on the radio stream. It's, happens on the TV side. So this email that supposedly now is showing up at this very, very late date has supposedly all of this information, but take with this with tongue-in-cheek that says CNN isn't blowing anything except something out their rear end to try to protect themselves from the Justice Department, who is now apparently subpoenaing records of press people. You know, this you cannot make this stuff up. It just overnight, this stuff grows. Hell, by this afternoon, it's almost like I should do an evening show because there's stuff that happens between now and the end of the day that you could do another 2 hours on. It just is such a fiasco right now. I don't know. Although I said last night, and I stand by it, I am absolutely tickled pink to be living and involved in this day and age. While I do not agree with nor like many of the players who are quote-unquote involved in my America, I surely do enjoy the fact that I am engaged and I'm doing this. If I couldn't talk about this stuff, I don't know, I think I'd be going nuts. That's what I think, and a lot of people are hungry for this kind of information. Actually, I've got a story coming up I'm working on for tomorrow, and to me it may end up having to take till next week by the time I put it together, but it comes from a minor backdoor story again, and I love these stories that are in the back rooms that the mainstream, they'll pick up on the AP wires, the UP wires, but they're not worthy enough, as it were, to hit the big scandal scenes on the major networks. And I'm hoping that now the AP will grow some backbone, maybe put some cojones in their bag, in their goodie bag, and start to talk about things that are really, really important without a slant to protect anybody. Journalism has taken a back seat to editorialism. I don't know. I haven't seen a journalist hit the market except on some of the social networks, and a lot of it is unverifiable. You just have no clue what's going on simply because it's... you can't verify it, and any Tom, Dick, or Harry can start a blog site and lay their claim to fame. Much like me. Hey, who am I? I'm just Jim. I don't know what I'm talking about. But anyways, corruption. Obama's EPA waived fees for friendly groups and denied conservative groups. Welcome the EPA. Now. We're now just talking about, we're not talking about the IRS now with tax exempt. We're talking EPA, environmental groups. EPA fees are waived for friendly groups and denies conservative groups. The Washington Examiner ran with this story the other day. Conservative groups seeking information. Hang on, I got to get a picture up here on the, there we go. There's the friendly little EPA pair, Mr. and Mrs. Green. Seeking information from the Environmental Protection Agency had been routinely hindered by fees normally waived for media and watchdog groups. See, and that's Freedom of Information Act. You want to take a look at records and things like that? It's supposed to be free. Well, it's free up to a point, depending upon what you want. If you want copies and it takes XYZ personnel to deliver those or gather those things for you in your Freedom of Information Act, you have to pay for it. And our company, WPEG, probably has 6 to 10 Freedom of Information Act requests out in our local and state government at any given time on any given day, many of which will end up having to try and find a justice to give us a reading of compliance. And because the DAs will never give you, now I never say never, but the DAs don't want to be bothered with Sunshine Law Acts, Freedom of Information Law Acts, compliance issues. We have a recording of a DA who is now a judge. You know, like I said, you can't make this stuff up, and you just can't sit in the back room and write it. We have a recording of a confrontation with a local DA in Oneida County, and he swears that it might be on a desk somewhere. Our information on our Freedom of Information Act request. It's absolutely ludicrous what he said. If I were a special prosecutor, I would throw that ass in jail. He's now a judge. There you go. Communities don't get it. It's a good old boy system. Sorry, Judge Bloom, if you're listening. Yeah, it's you, the DA Bloom. You said it. You put your cojones on the table, and you had a huffy-puffy sheriff standing behind you because she wasn't sure what we were going to react to when you said it. Absolutely ludicrous. But that's okay. You know, the world's a small place. You get the comeuppance, as they say, always comes around to get you. Here, Watchdog Group. While fees for more than 90% of requests from green groups were waived. Could you imagine that? If you're on the good side, cilantro, anything else that the Obama administration wants to do, other than hard job-providing, let's call it non-green, but they're here. Here's what Biden said during the election campaign, and listen up because, well, we got to stop. We don't play music. Good old Biden said this as they're running for president and vice president.
No coal plants here in America. Build them if they're going to build them over there. No coal plants here in America. Build them if they're going to build them over
there. You got that? That's old Biden telling people at an election campaign to the green groups, no coal plants in America. Huh? Uh-huh. He also says this. Whoops.
Is qualified or more qualified than I am to be Vice President of the United States of America. She is qualified to be President of the United States of America. She's easily qualified to be Vice President of the United States of America.
Well, can you imagine saying that while you're on a campaign trail? Saying that an opponent might have been a better choice than you? Yeah, well, anyway, so you get 90% of the conservative requests were, while fees for 90% of the requests from green groups were waived, according to request review by the Conservative Enterprise Institute, or CEI. CEI reviewed Freedom of Information Act requests sent between January 2012 and this spring, 2013, from several environmental groups friendly to the EPA's mission and several conservative groups to see how equally the agency applied its fee waiver policy for media and watchdog groups. Government agencies are supposed to waive fees for groups disseminating information for public benefit. That would be like us. If we're doing a story on something and we ask for information from an informational standpoint within an article or a story that we're doing, they're supposed to be waived. Supposed to give us that information so that we can compile our story and actually do journalism, not editorialism. But it'd be editorialism at the tail end of this. This is as clear an example of disparate treatment as the IRS hurdles selectively imposed upon groups with names ominously reflecting an interest in, say, a less intrusive or biased federal government. For 92% of requests coming from green groups, the EPA cooperated by waiving fees for the information. Those requests came from National Resource Defense Council, Earth Justice, Public Employees for Environmental Responsibility, the Waterkeeper Alliance, Greenpeace, Southern Environmental Law Center. Oh, wait a minute. That group is not, let me ask you $1 million question. The Southern Environmental Law Center. Isn't that the same group that puts out terrorist watch lists? and the Center for Biological Diversity. So 92% of those requests the fees were waived for any and all information that those groups requested. Of the requests that were denied, the EPA said the group either didn't respond to requests for justification of a waiver, or it didn't express intent to disseminate the information to the general public, according to documents acquired by the Washington Examiner. And interestingly enough, now the Washington Examiner, now they probably paid for this information. They probably did not get their fees waived either. The Washington Examiner, CEI, on the other hand, had its request denied 93% of the time. They're treating people equally, 92 and 93%, except they're on opposite ends of the spectrum. One request was denied because CEI failed to express its intent to disseminate the information to the general public. You got to be kidding me. The rest were denied because the agency said CEI failed to demonstrate that the release of the information request significantly increased the public understanding of government operations or activities. Well, to some point, I got to say that that's probably not true, and it's defendable as being not true, because every time the requests were made, the end result was the taxpayers paid for a mistake by the administration in their efforts to support green businesses. Similarly, requests from conservative groups like Judicial Watch and National Center for Public Policy Research were approved half the time, or 50% of the time, and all requests from Franklin Center and the Institute for Energy Research were denied. Well, they got a 100% batting record anyway. Their practice is to take care of their friends and impose ridiculous obstacles to deny problematic parties' requests for information, said Horner. Freedom of Information Act requests from CEI forced EPA to release emails under the Richard Windsor alias former EPA Administrator Lisa Jackson used to conduct government business. Interesting. You put an alias on, and off you go. CEI has also filed FOIA requests for emails, text messages, and instant messages from the Jackson and EPA nominee Gina McCarthy. Horner said he believes the EPA has denied CEI's request because he thinks his think tank is the most active group seeking to hold the agency accountable. This is kind of interesting because during our flaunts around the county and the state, I end up having pet agencies that I do like to follow. And it's never a one-shot deal that I make these decisions on. It's always based on, well, I shouldn't say that. I guess there are some times that a department or agency within county government or city government is so ludicrous, off the wall, unbelievable, unexplainable, that it just automatically becomes part of, oh, we're going to that meeting and we're going to record it. And I think that it's funny that with an open meetings situation in this country, the open meeting laws offer any agency the right to sit in on public meetings. You can bring recording equipment as long as it's not obtrusive or more domineering or seems to be more important than the actual meeting itself. That's under the right to know. So obviously you can't be at all meetings at all times, but picking out your agencies or departments that constantly prove to be, well, I won't call them problematic, but questionable, it's almost like it becomes drudge work, just going and sitting through these meetings, recording them. And it's like you have a never-ending roll of rope. You know the old saying, give them enough rope, they'll hang themselves. Time after time after time, there are certain agencies, and I know some of you know what I'm talking about because you've come along with me on certain meetings, and it never changes. There are these quips and good old boy innuendos flying around the room during a meeting, inclusive of now having the audacity to say, well, we'll talk about this after the meeting. So they're admitting that they're going to talk about business, but it's got to be after the meeting because the meeting's being recorded. And they do not want to say in public what it is that they're about to do. I can point fingers because I have the recordings of them saying that. And this is only in 1, 2, or 3 counties in the state of Wisconsin. 72 counties in the state of Wisconsin. 3 of them have prime groups that I love to go and record. Because you just never know what the village idiots are going to say. And they truly don't think that we go and talk about it or that people listen to it. And they do. It's absolutely phenomenal the amount of listeners we have. Which is why we keep doing it. But anyway, that aside, that's part of why I get a chuckle out of CEI staying focused on the EPA. You already know that agency is so big and does so much that it isn't going to be long before you're going to have a story coming out of the group. This is a clear pattern of favoritism for allied groups and a government and concerned campaign to make life more difficult for those deemed unfriendly, he said. The left hand of big government reaches out to give a boost to its far left hand at every turn. Argue against more of the same, however, and be prepared to be treated as if you have fewer rights. And that is where the saying that I continue to say with people who want to take a look at something, don't get so mad about what they're doing. Get mad and investigate the process by which they think that they can do it. It is always the process that the village idiots do not have a clue about. Guaranteed, you will find the flaw in their activities that will hold them accountable and nullify what it is they think they're getting away with. That is the easiest thing to do, and that comes from experience. An earlier version incorrectly called the Natural Resources Defense Council the National Resource Defense Council. So I misnamed something and blah, blah, blah. There is a whole list of links on this mess. Head on over to the Daily Gator, DALEY Gator, and look for Obama's EPA waive fees requests for friendly groups article. There are literally a ton of links over here that cite exactly what has happened to the eco-friendly fees that have been waived by the EPA. Sorry, dog. You're in. I'm in the home studio here at the bunker, and my pups are coming down, thinking that they're going to get their thing, but I already let them out before the show, so they won't be bugging you too much. I won't have to walk away. But anyway, we do have to stop for a little bit of commercial time. So with that, it's Just Jim in the Morning. I'll be right back after these breaks.
WPEG.net, your local PEG programming content provider. We provide programming in public, education, and government programming for you, our listeners, a listener-supported station. Don't forget to support our underwriters because they're the ones who care enough to bring you this program. At Hodag Gun & Loan, you'll find one of the largest selections of new and used guns in the Northwoods. Beretta, Ruger, and Springfield Armory, rifles, pistols, and black powder. At Hodag Gun & Loan, your gun and ammo needs are covered. We buy gold and jewelry too, and right now we're paying the highest prices in the Northwoods for your gold. Located at 915 Lincoln Street in Support our underwriters. After all, they're the ones that keep us bringing this program to you.
Do you need a safe and secure place to keep your personal property? Do you want 24-hour lit access to your mini warehouse? Do you want your own lock on your storage unit? Conveniently located at 1647 Menominee Drive in Rhinelander, Wisconsin, Cedarwood Mini Warehousing has exactly what you're looking for in short and long-term storage units. With nearly 200 storage units that provide safe and secure storage for your personal property, Cedarwood Mini Warehousing and Storage will meet all your storage needs with their short-term and long-term rental contracts. Storage units come in sizes from 4 to 6 foot to 12 by 16 for your large personal and household items. For a limited time, get 1 month free with a 6-month paid rental contract. Call 715-366-2260 today to see about availability and current monthly specials. From big to small, we store it all.
Call 715-366-2260 today. Price is subject to availability.
WPEG.net television network is your PEG content provider in Wisconsin's North Woods. Public, education, and government programming content is what we do. From city meetings to school board meetings and all points in.
PEG.net, your local PEG programming content provider. We provide programming in public, education, and government programming for you, our listeners, a listener-supported station. Don't forget to support our underwriters because they're the ones who care enough to bring you this program.
Oh, it's Joe Ligotti, the guy from Boston again, baby. And you know, I got a very interesting email from Tom from Austin, Texas. He sent me an email on a 500-plus employee company. And here are the stats on this company. 29 of these employees have been accused of fucking whacking their spouses around, whether they be male or female. 7 of them have been arrested for fraud. 19 of them have been accused of fucking bouncing checks from here to Chicago. 117 of these pricks have bankrupted at least 2 companies, not 1. 3 of them have done time for assault. All right? 71 cannot even get a MasterCard or a Visa because their credit sucks so bad. 14 have been arrested for smoking dope on drug or other drug charges. I don't know what they're snorting or smoking over there. 8 of them have been arrested for shoplifting. 21 of them are current defendants in actual lawsuits right now. And here's the best. You'll love this one. 84 of these employees this year have been arrested for drunk driving. Are you all right? You want to know what this company, who this company is, and what it does? It's a company that works for you and works for me. That's right, the United States Congress. Absolutely. Don't you love it? These assholes, led by the head asshole Nancy Pelosi, that liberal bitch, who's trying to take away my handguns, letting the fags get married, and taking away my cigars and trans fats. And these bastards got that kind of a record, trying to keep me in line? You! That's right. Guy from Boston, baby, talking about the United States Congress. They're f***ing beautiful. Remember, you were thinking it, but I get the balls to say it.
Today, again, suggested that I don't understand. It's true. There are some things I don't understand.
It is just wonderful to be back in Oregon, and over the last 15 months, we've traveled to every corner of the United States. I've now been in 57 states. I think 1 left to go. 1 left to go. Alaska and Hawaii I was not allowed to go to, even though I really wanted to visit. But
somebody didn't tell you when you need to shut up.
I actually want to thank you because you remind me of why I don't like people.
How many assholes we got on this ship anyhow?
Go!
I knew it. I'm surrounded by assholes.
Keep firing!
Oh, you know, that's fun. That's just the fun part of my show, you betcha. Yeah, old Joe from Boston. Joe Ligotti from Boston. The guy goes about 400 pounds. He's over on the Fox News Network in, there's the guy from Boston. Yeah. I heard he got knocked off the air for a while for some of his commentary, but he's back on from what I hear. And he'll send me stuff every once in a while. We're glad to play it, because like he says, you were thinking it, but I got the balls to say it. You betcha. Anyways, and that was soon-to-be President Obama on his campaign trail. 57 states. Does that guy really have a clue about anything in the world? I don't think so. He's just a head village idiot. I'm telling you. Anyways, a little oops here. Yesterday, Doug Hagman came out was in the right place at the right time. And a little oops by 3 lawmakers, Senator Loretta Weinberg, Senator Linda Greenstein, and Sandra Cunningham, Senator. And, you know, like I said, if you just go to meetings and you record, you just never know what you're going to hear or capture on the microphone. Another one of these hot mic reveals lawmakers' intent to confiscate guns. You won't hear this on the 10 o'clock news or the 5 o'clock news. We do have the audio file somewhere. I didn't get it loaded in the player. Sorry about that, but I will, and I'll continue to play it. May 14th, 2013, every American gun owner, regardless of the state in which you live, is presently or will be the target of gun confiscation. The state-by-state framework of confiscation is being erected in front of us, all to strip us of our rights under the Second Amendment of the U.S. Constitution. Proof of this nefarious intent of disarming citizens was serendipitously caught by a hot microphone at the conclusion of the May 9th, 2013 meeting of the New Jersey State Legislature. Again, State Senator Loretta Weinberg, Linda Greenstein, and Sandra Cunningham. At the conclusion of the New Jersey State Budget and Appropriations Committee meeting last Thursday, an open microphone caught 3 state senators identified as Senate Majority Leader Loretta Weinberg, Assistant Majority Leader Sandra Cunningham, Senate Majority Whip Linda Greenstein, and at least one staff member talking candidly about their intent to confiscate all guns from the people they serve. It should be noted that Senator Loretta Weinberg is the chief proponent of the anti-gun legislation being moved through the New Jersey State Senate. Although some of the candid conversation is a bit difficult to discern due to the ambient noise, their message is clear. Quote, unquote, we needed a bill that was going to confiscate, end quote. No matter what they tell you, what they try to coddle you with, like my state senator tried to do during a telephone call to her office, Tammy Baldwin. I got a very trite return letter email from her for contacting her about this. She is anti-gun. We need to look at blah, 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 blah. They don't care. This is quote. They don't care about the bad guys. All they want to do is have their little guns and do whatever they want with them. Added another obviously demeaning manner. Another conceded that gun owners do, in fact, want to keep their guns out of the hands of criminals, but added they don't have any regulations to do it. Oh, really? Yeah. This is the attitude that permeates in your local government. You have to understand this, folks. The national level is absolutely positively, in my opinion, the diversion. Because of states' rights, if you start to have states with, I can't say what Joe Lagarde says about Pelosi, but if this is what these elected state officials feel about the Constitution of the United States of America that they swore to uphold and honor during their time in office, these comments based on direct intent, should have every patriot up in arms in that state or any other state that this occurs in, inclusive of having the ability to press charges. While you're entitled to your opinion, and I understand that by trying to change state law, you're trying to change the Constitution, and that is our process. If you don't like what's being done, change the law. Change the law by which things are done. But the sleeping, I still call it the silent majority of Americans, needs to step up to the plate on so many issues, and that's how the Dems, the libtards, win. Start a fire over there, start a fire over there. Let's have 10 fires going. One of them will take. The old saying, you throw enough crap on the wall, something will stick. And these people they're relentless. They are like pit bulls in the arena. For anyone doubting, I'm back to the article, for anyone doubting the bitter contempt these legislatures hold for gun owners and pro-constitutionalists, they're going to be investigated by the IRS, aren't they now? A YouTube video that captured the open microphone moment is available for review here. There's a link, and we'll look it up and maybe play it for you. During the second hour of the Hagman and Hagman report that aired last night, we interviewed the highly credentialed Scott Bach, Esquire, executive director of the Association of the New Jersey Rifle and Pistol Clubs, who explained the draconian laws being written and passed in the state of New Jersey. Clearly, this is about nothing less than disarming the American public, and the current battleground is in New Jersey. It's all over. Wisconsin now has supposedly rumors of discussions about gun control. Well, it's issues we should be looking at. When you hear that, you need to stand up and bitch slap verbally your elected representative. And you need to talk to your representative. You need to pick up the phone, go on the internet, find the numbers, pick up the phone and call. I don't care if you talk to a staff member. You need to talk to your elected officials and let them know that this is not acceptable behavior by them, whom you either voted for or didn't. When I talked to Tammy Baldwin, I let her know up front I did not vote for her, but that I hold her accountable for the process by which she occupies her office. And I'm sorry, you can talk to your friends till you're blue in the face. If they're truly your friends, they already know what the issues are, and they know how they're going to vote. The reminder call is great. The support for that position is great. I support you in where you're going, blah, 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 whatever it might be. The did you know needs to go to both elected officials. And I fault many people in the quote-unquote grass movements, the Patriot movement, that they continue to forget to send contact to the people who are on the other side. There's no reason for Tammy Baldwin to not get every letter that gets sent to Ron Johnson. I almost said it. Absolutely. You by bypassing her, and she thinks that she's unaccountable, and she's only amongst her friends, like-minded thinkers who got her elected. That is absolutely unacceptable behavior by grassroots patriots. You need to include everybody on both sides of the aisle, if not more so. Bypass Ron Johnson and try and convince Tammy Baldwin that she needs to do something. We already know pretty much how she's going to vote. But I'm going to tell you that you need to talk to her and let her know that if she is ever found doing this, you will hold her accountable as a constituent. She works for me, for us. She doesn't work for just her friends. She works for everybody. She needs to be held accountable by everybody. If she has 51% of the support from her friends, then we haven't done our job, have we? We didn't elect the right person, which is obvious. But Tommy, you're sorry, we don't want to get into that. That's an old discussion between Tommy Thompson and Tammy Baldwin. We must do everything we can to preserve, protect, and defend our Second Amendment rights. And y'all know who that group is that's fighting for it. There are state groups, and our state group in Wisconsin is WisForce. That is the chartered association by the NRA and the NRA at a national level. There is so much going on in the state of Wisconsin, and it costs money. You and I both know. Why did Hirohito say that he could never invade America? Does anybody remember that? Well, probably you don't remember it, but if you've read it, if you were young enough to be in school to read the history books when they actually had facts and information in the curriculum, you would have read that statement. It is famous. Why Hirohito said that he could never invade the United States of America, because there would be a gun behind every blade of grass. They couldn't win that war, so they're not going to attempt it. So what did they do? They went to all the people who couldn't defend themselves. And then we had to go take it back. This is the underlying movement and mentality of the socialists and communists who have been elected to state and local governments throughout America. Primary job one: disarm America, disarm the people, or have them register so that we know where things are. See, it's us and them, so we know where something is. It's none of their damn business where something is. If we law-abiding citizens wish to own howitzers, we go register them, and we got the money, we buy them. They're kind of hard to hide. I'm telling you, you need to put your money where your mouth is. That's one of the reasons that Mitt Romney didn't get elected President of the United States of America. And that old bummer did. The old boy. If patriots are too proud to take $1 from somebody, the libtards are not. They'll take 50 cents. For any of you who used to live in southeastern Wisconsin or southern Wisconsin and knew TV Lenny, one of the greatest marketing campaigns around for a very long time. Get a bike, get a bike, get a bike. You know who I'm talking about. If you listen to television in Madison or the Milwaukee, southeastern Wisconsin, even down in northern Illinois, buy a chair, get a bike. Buy a chair, get a bike. I'm only going to make $1 a unit on anything I sell, but I'm going to sell 1 million units of it. And that theory works. And the conservative patriot movement needs to understand that. Doesn't matter if you take it a quarter at a time or a nickel a time. If you don't have anything better to do, go set up a lemonade stand. America has been built and supported by lemonade stands from a long, long time ago. It doesn't matter. It's nice to get the big checks, and you will get them, but you need to not bypass the lemonade stands. We need to do everything we can do to preserve and protect and defend our Second Amendment rights, or we will lose much more. Regardless of where you live, the fight is coming to you. If it has not yet arrived, we must be proactive. And yes, we can make our voices heard to counter and utter the contempt of these lawmakers, regardless of your state of residence, while we still have the chance. Let's hold these opponents to our constitutional rights accountable for their words and actions. That is exactly what I've been saying for years. The time is now, and the fight has been left to us. There is, if you're over on the TV side, every time I put that up, I need to get a better picture. There are groups cropping up all over the place. There's a group that I belong to, among others, called the Oath Keepers, Guardians of the Republic. Not on our watch. So it had been around all along, I think 2008, 2009. But go over and check them out. They got a website, oathkeepers.org. Go over and check it out. Sons of Liberty Riders, another proactive patriot group. Motorcycle ride, not a motorcycle club. It's not a club. You got to remember, there's a lot of disparity between clubs, MCs, and non-club members. This is not a Sons of Liberty Riders are not, it is not a motorcycle club. It's not an organized club. But they fall very much in line with Oath Keepers. These are the things when you see some people have problems, and I did, and I think I still do have trouble with terminology in groups and quote unquote belonging to groups that don't. I don't know what it is. While I belong to the Oath Keepers, but the Oath Keepers are a group of people who are nonviolent. But yet they remember that when they stand, they remind people that at one point in either your service life or your elected life, you raise your hand. You put your hand on the Bible. You take an oath of office and allegiance. And that oath is for life. It's like a marriage thing. And while you used to be able to say, well, it's like a marriage vow, till death do us part, that isn't true anymore. I mean, that's become socially inept to be married for more than 7 or 6 years, let alone 6 months. I don't know. But that's the theory, the old-time theory of when you raise your hand and take an oath, it is for life. The moment that you're either in the service or you're elected somewhere, it's perceived to be just the term. You get in either... You volunteer and go in the service 4 years, 2 years, whatever it is, 8 years. You perceive that that's your service to your oath. It's not. You get elected, you go 2 years, 4 years. You sit in an office supposed to serve the people, not serve the office. But that is for life. When you walk away from that term of service, you still are held to that oath. And it's very important that people remember that and are reminded of that. There are 10 things that an Oath Keeper should never do. Go look them up, oathkeepers.org. Sons of Liberty Riders are very affiliated. They're aligned. Let's say they're not affiliated. They're aligned with the Oath Keeper group. At the Benghazi trial or hearings, the leader, the president of the Oath Keepers group was present. Got a seat in the room to be a witness to the testimony of the Benghazi investigation. Rightfully so. And the same holds true with the Second Amendment rights. There are players, there are people who are very visible, continue to push the fight. Nick Clark, Wisconsin Carry. I give him a plug. I am an ex-board of directors member for WisForce. While I sat on did my term, I tried with Nick to try to build a relationship between WisForce and Wisconsin Carry, but that was just prior to the CC laws in the state of Wisconsin. There were many on both. I won't say on both sides of the aisle. On our aisle, we were supposedly on the same side. But Wisconsin Carry chose to take the path of open carry, which has always been legal in the state of Wisconsin. It has always been there. We, the people, have chosen to just not exercise that right for whatever reason. But to carry open has always been a legal right in the state of Wisconsin. While pushing to go from open carry, which is a very logical path, open carry is still legal, except in certain areas, blah, 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 school zones, gun-free school zones, and that's arguable at some point. The open carry movement chose to find locations that were open carry friendly. They chose to have small gatherings, 5, 6, Starbucks coffee, very open. Come on in, have a cup of coffee. You don't care if you got your gun on, so what? They take the attitude that a person who has the fortitude to carry a gun openly should be your new best friend. Obviously, there's not going to be anything happening at that location while that person or party is there. There are those people, oh, he's got a gun. Oh, my God, he's got a gun. So what? There's some competency with the ability to walk in open public with a gun on that should say that you need to, we're not going to have some mass shooter showing up here. Not going to happen. And what a world of difference between urban America and rural America. Everybody can relate to this comment. If you travel from Detroit and you go to Starbucks in Wyoming somewhere, you're going to find an entirely different set of implements hanging in the back of the pickup truck in Wyoming or Arizona than you would in downtown Detroit. Nobody's going to have a 30-30 or a rifle or a semi-automatic sitting in the back window of a pickup truck, let alone with the windows down and the doors unlocked like they would in Arizona or in Wyoming or someplace in the Southwest. Different lifestyles, different mentalities on the whole issue. And yet, rural America has fallen. The state of Wisconsin, even in Lake Wish-I-Be-Gone, where I'm at, our little town hall, we got 700 people here on a lucky summer day when they're all here. The rest are snowbirds, There's probably 350 people who live here year-round. Our little stinking town hall has a no carry sign posted on it. And I've asked our town chairman and our council people, our supervisors, who are you afraid of? Why are you afraid of me? If I have a CC permit now and I walk into the building, don't you think that I should be your new best friend? Because if you tick somebody off with a planning and zoning law that's actually illegal in our little community, don't you think, where the hell do the postal people come from? Is it that they come from, they hatch an egg? No, something happens that tips them over the edge. Why would you have a gun-free zone anywhere? If some people have the fortitude to stand up and carry a gun, concealed or open, and in a school, don't you think that your children would be better protected if you knew not who, but that, say, for instance, and I can use this as an example. Last Saturday, I drove from Lake Wish-I-Be-Gone out to Bruce, Wisconsin, and I attended a free concealed carry class offered by Wisconsin Carry. And the discussion, one of the people who was giving the class, and I didn't need to take the class. It was for someone that I know. And one of the two instructors has been pushing to get local school boards to have teachers exercise their rights to carry on premise in a concealed manner if they so choose to do it. The school boards in Wisconsin have the ultimate power to write a waiver so that any teacher who wishes to provide credentials, they could waive the gun-free school zone, no guns on the premise law, and allow them to be on person in the control of, not in a desk, not in a purse, but always on the body of the person who has the state credentialized concealed carry permit and wishes to exercise that right to protect the students and staff within that building. Every local school board has the power to write that waiver. And we're going to do a show on that shortly. I have the materials that cite many states, many school boards, school districts who have done it and have had no ramifications. And parents absolutely love the fact that they know somewhere in that building a certain number of people have assumed the shepherd role, the protector role of their children. That is an absolute positive feeling, because the part that anti-gunners don't get is that evil, if you believe good exists, there has to be evil as a comparative. There is an opposite to everything. There are good people And there are great people. How do you compare somebody who's good to somebody who's great? You have to have something that's not so great. And if you're somebody that's good, you need to have somebody who ain't good, evil. Evil exists. Pure evil exists. It permeates in D.C. Oh, yeah. What's that guy doing? Oh, come on. You know what I'm talking about. It's absolutely imperative that while people agree to disagree on subjects, the ability to not prevent those who wish to act in the benefit for the best interests of another group of people who refuse or don't wish to act is not something that needs to be the wall to prevent those people who wish to exercise their rights from actually exercising their rights. While I choose to not carry a gun, doesn't mean that I am a person who would say, you can't carry a gun because I choose not to. I drive a Chevy. I don't like Fords in any way, shape, or form, although the corporation seems to be doing better in their public stance with bailout money than any other manufacturer. I just don't like Fords. That doesn't mean that you can't drive a Ford. I love seafood. I know people who hate seafood. I look at it as a fact, well, there's more for me. If I choose to wear a gun, don't ever think that you're going to tell me I can't. You are just not all that. And that's what the anti-gunners don't get. 3 elected official. Confiscate, confiscate, confiscate. Who the hell do you think you are? Here, if you're on the TV side, maybe you'll see this little book. It's called The Constitution. The Declaration of Independence and the Constitution of the United States of America. It's a little pocket book. Why don't you get one and read it? It's not hard to understand. God, that cranks me up. But that's all right, because I'm just Jim. I'm just Jim in the morning on WPEG.net, your dose of reality network. We'll be right back.
WPEG.net, your local PEG programming content provider. We provide programming in public, education, and government programming for you, our listeners, a listener-supported station. Don't forget to support our underwriters because they're the ones who care enough to bring you this program. At Hodag Gun and Loan, you'll find one of the largest selections of new and used guns in the Northwoods. Beretta, Ruger, and Springfield Armory, rifles, pistols, and black powder. At Hodag Gun and Loan, your gun and ammo needs are covered. We buy gold and jewelry too, and right now we're paying the highest prices in the Northwoods for your gold. Located at 915 Lincoln Street in support our underwriters. After all, they're the ones that keep us bringing this program to you. Do you need a safe and secure place to keep your personal property? Do you want 24-hour lit access to your mini warehouse? Do you want your own lock on your storage unit? Conveniently located at 1647 Menominee Drive in Rhinelander, Wisconsin, Cedarwood Mini Warehousing has exactly what you're looking for in short and long-term storage units. With nearly 200 storage units that provide safe and secure storage for your personal property, Cedarwood Mini Warehousing and Storage will meet all your storage needs with their short-term and long-term rental contracts. Storage units come in sizes from 4 to 6 foot to 12 by 16 for your large personal and household items. For a limited time, get 1 month free with a 6-month paid rental contract. Call 715-366-2260 today to see about availability and current monthly specials. From big to small, we store it all. Call 715-366-2260 today. Prices subject to availability. WPEG.net television network is your PEG content provider in Wisconsin.
the sort of popular sport in this Parliament. And when people stand up and talk about the great success that the EU has been, I'm not sure anybody saying it really believes it themselves anymore. I think we're celebrating the wrong day. We shouldn't be celebrating the 9th of May. We should be celebrating the 8th of May, Victory in Europe Day. We should celebrate the last time the Germans tried to smash the continent and they foundered, and at least half the continent got its democracy back. What we're celebrating on the 9th of May is another attempt, through different means, to smash democracy across Europe. I don't doubt for a minute that Jean Monnet was well-intentioned at the start. He thought that if you abolish nation-states, you would stop there ever being another war. He didn't at the time, of course, have the benefit of seeing that theory as it played out in Yugoslavia. But like communism, this has all gone badly wrong. And the EU Titanic has now hit the iceberg. It is a European Union of economic failure, of mass unemployment, of low growth, but worst of all, it's an EU with the economic prism of the euro. And this now poses huge dangers to the continent. We face the prospect of mass civil unrest, possibly even revolution, in some countries that are being driven into total and utter desperation. But there is perhaps an opportunity, there is perhaps some good news, that now a democratic rebellion has begun. It began in Finland last year, with the True Finns getting nearly 20% of the vote. And we're seeing in country after country new political movements on the right and the left making big scores. But that may not all be good news, because in Greece what we saw last Sunday was rather reminiscent of the German election of 1932. We saw the status quo centre collapse and the extremes of right and left rise. You know, this project could even cause the rebirth of National Socialism in Europe. We are headed the wrong way. We must break up the Eurozone. We must set those Mediterranean countries free. We must try to build a Europe. I want a Europe, but a Europe based on trade, a Europe based on cooperation, a Europe based on us sitting round the table and agreeing sensible rules on crime and the environment. We can do all of those things, but we cannot do it if we're asked to rally behind that flag. I owe no allegiance to that flag, and nor do most of the people in Europe either.
There you go. That's Nigel Farage addressing the EU Union with a speech. And the flag that he makes reference to is none other than the EU flag.
My Justice Department has said to the courts, we don't think the Defense of Marriage Act is constitutional. This is something that historically had been determined at the state level. And part of my believing ultimately that civil unions weren't sufficient.
Will you personally fight to repeal that act?
Well, look, Congress is clearly on notice that I think it's a bad idea.
Yep, clearly on record. That's the old boy talking about the civil unions needing to get over to being able to be married. And we won't go there at this moment. But back to I forgot to mention here that the telephone number here. Make your on this gun piece, this anti-gun piece that the legislators got caught with the open microphone. There is a make your views known and your voice heard by contacting the New Jersey Senate Majority Office by phone at 609. Grab a pencil, boys and girls. 609-847-3700, and or fax them your views on confiscate to 609-633-7254. And interesting little article. Like I said, we have the audio somewhere, and it is a little hard to decipher. Maybe we'll throw it through the edit system and see if we can't pick up exactly what's said and try and filter out the background noise. This is absolutely ludicrous for this to be going on. And, some of you who have had experiences out on the East Coast know exactly what's going on there. It's being driven. Detroit. God. It's Chicago. We did a story on that a couple of weeks ago about 22,000 cameras are up in Chicago, and it's all under the guise, it's all tax money, under the guise of keeping citizens safe. So, and with that last comment with you old boy commenting on civil unions and his perspective on life and marriage and immigration and all the things that are anti-American, he hasn't really come out and made a statement on the Gosnell trial. And I guess we can't do a story, a show, should I say, in this day and age and not talk about this just a little bit. I promise I won't talk any longer than what do we got? 40 minutes on it. The Gateway Pundit came out with a story the other day by Jim Hoft, yesterday in the afternoon. And the title of it is, "It's an Obama World." The IRS has told pro-life group it must support abortion and promote abortion, or they wouldn't qualify for nonprofit status. Now, hey, yep, there it is, right there. I'm playing what's his face. I'm telling you that it's this stuff, you can't make it up. It just keeps going and going and going. The IRS told a pro-life group that it had to promote abortion and they wouldn't qualify for nonprofit status. And a little sub-note on that, that the Internal Revenue Service already has confessed to targeting and trying to injure Tea Party, Constitution, and Patriot organizations by demanding answers to arbitrary questions and delaying their applications for tax status so that they could operate. I mean, that's, but this is, you know, I don't know how anyone with a straight face, and if you're over on the television side, I'll show you exactly who I'm talking about. I do not know how anyone could, with a straight face, pull out the plausible deniability card and say that they did not know anything was going on. Specifically, because it was going on during election cycles. It's it's now come up to the opinion of the World Net Daily, who is published this article. Now, WND has learned that the IRS has also put an organization in its bullseye that wanted to do nothing more than share its pro-life message with churches. Cherish Life Ministries. I don't know if you wandered or if you drive the highways of anywhere, even in northern Wisconsin here. Actually, you're right out on U.S. Highway 8, just east of Interstate 53 or Highway 51. The Cherish Life billboards. That would be this group, was created to be a nonprofit under the IRS Code 501c3 provision so that churches could feel comfortable working together. They just took a subject matter and said this should be universally held true between all churches and faiths, and we'll go with it. Shin said the IRS contacted him regarding his application for nonprofit status and was told he didn't qualify. Because what? He's single-minded? While it may be a political issue to some, it's not. It's a theist issue. Abortion is a theist, though it's become a social issue. It's not. It's a theism issue. The representative was telling me I had to provide information on all aspects of abortion. Oh, like Planned Parenthood does, right? I couldn't just educate the church from the pro-life perspective, he said. Every time I pressed her on this issue and asked her to clarify her position, she would state that it wasn't what she was saying, and then she would repeat it almost in the same way. The IRS agent who did not respond to a WND request for commentary on the mission's position, or the ministry's position. But Shin said he was accused of setting up a political organization. I asked her why she said we were a political organization, and she said it was because we had said in our application that we did less than 5% political activity. I explained to her that this was what was stated in the application, and all we were doing was acknowledging that we were doing less than 5% political activity, he said. But it was denied. I'm thinking that maybe, hopefully, they'll get their nonprofit status now. Don't know. But this, I guess, is just indicative of what this administration is all about. And while you'll get the plausible deniability from the top echelon, you're going to have to understand that the compliance mandates from the top echelons, powers that be, allow peons, and I'm going to call her a peon, to operate comfortably with like-mindedness of the administration, turning the blind eye, as it were. Somebody in the administration, and I said this the other day, on any application, someone at the highest level has to authorize a form that is filled out or sent out to be filled out. It's always that way. If you look at the bottom of any government-issued form, there's a little number. It's a form number. Somebody wrote it, somebody got approval for it, and somebody sent it out into circulation. Yesterday we talked about the new Father's Day cards that we need to send out to people with two simple words. It's not hard for an administration to say these two words. And Obama needs to learn how to say it. He needs to learn these two words. None of this, they'll be held accountable. They'll be held accountable. Accountable means what? My eyes, it's plain and simple. You're fired. All I have to do is watch Ted Turner, Celebrity Apprentice, so-and-so, you're fired. Period. You did it. If it's not in an administrative's acceptable policy column, the typical heads will roll. No, heads won't roll. Fire them. You're fired. You made my administration look bad. You made my company, quote unquote, and it's not your company, it's my company. You made me look bad. Dereliction of duty, malfeasance in office. Doesn't matter. You're fired. No benefits, no golden parachutes. You're fired. Those are the things that the Patriot and Tea Party groups need to send with simple explanations to their elected officials in an administration that is running rampant and unchecked. Accountability means you're fired. No benefits, no golden parachutes, no severance pay. You're fired. The public sector should be held no less accountable than the private sector, and that's the way it works. You get walked out the door. You have some yahoo walk up to you. You don't even get to go back to your desk after lunch to clean it out. You are escorted out of the building. Done. Nada. No mas. You're fired. Someone will go decide what's company property, taxpayer property, leave it on a desk. Anything that's not company property or taxpayer property gets put in a box and gets sent to the employer to the guardhouse gate. And that employee that was fired and walked off the premise can come back at some appointed time and pick that box up and take it home with him and wring out the crying rag. That is the responsible action for misaction in office. On with this discussion of the pro-life movement. I don't know what your opinions are on this, and I don't really care. What I'm doing is trying to read some perspectives to you. Why the pro? Here's a comment from Ashley McGuire, published yesterday. Actually came out in the morning. I don't know why I didn't do this in the morning yesterday. Whatever. Why the pro-life movement must reject the death penalty for Kermit Gosnell. I don't know if it has any merit or not, but I don't know if I should have had a picture of him up here somewhere. I don't. Is it any surprise that Dr. Kermit Gosnell was found guilty of murder? His trial, when people finally started paying attention, disgusted the nation for weeks. He killed babies inside the womb and out. He discriminated on the basis of race. He put women in danger. He made the world an uglier place. For those of you who haven't seen that standard press, that's him walking out of the courtroom in shackles with his few belongings. And it's interesting as all get out, to me anyway. As I watch these news clips with a very discerning eye. And I watched him walk out of the courtroom with his jailers in tow. Oh, and he ranks as sergeant as an escort. Interesting. He had this smug look on his face. And it pretty much infuriated me, but that's me. And my summation of the smug look that he kept giving. And we didn't see his sorry butt in any of the courtroom proceedings. All we're doing is catching this as he's walking away from it all. That part and parcel was exactly what made me be disgusted about the whole mess, specifically the press. As someone said in the other day, I forget where it was I heard it, that there was a press section set aside in any major murder trial or kind of a trial like that. There's going to be a press section set aside. You got press credentials. You walk in. You can sit in there and listen to it and do your reporting. Hence, the AP got their phone lines. They'll even provide you phone lines in some cases so that you can call in your story. Which reminds me, I have to go out to Madison shortly. I think I'm going to have to go talk to somebody out there. And the smug look that I saw was, and now after knowing how he got life without parole, was that he bargained away the death penalty. He plea bargained the appeal process, which is a process guaranteed by our Constitution. Oh, that little book I had before that says that you can appeal your court decisions. Pretty much universal. There's always an appeal process. So he gave up the right of his appeal so that he could live. And while most Americans won't look at that idiot walking down the aisle shackled up and notice his little smirk, because the press never bothered to carry the horrendous information that was presented at this trial. That's the part that just gravitated me into the ticked off world. Anyway, the story goes on to say that the world is a touch more just now that he's been found guilty. But soon many will be banging their drums with bloodlust calling for the death penalty. But what good is responding to death with death? In fact, pro-lifers often make the argument that responding to a violent act, rape, parentheses, with another violent act, in parentheses, abortion, only perpetuates a cycle of evil and violence. This is not to say that putting Gosnell to death is the moral equivalent of aborting a baby conceived by rape, as putting Gosnell to death would not necessarily be unjust. But it is to say that fixating on the death penalty for Gosnell is focusing our attention in the wrong place. Our Constitution may permit. See, I have a problem with that language right there. And I think that what is it that we the people need to do? We really do need to sit down and understand our own language. The Constitution doesn't permit a damn thing. And people who step up to the plate, up to the pulpit, up to the podium, need to understand the English language and the principles of our republic. It's not a freaking democracy. It's a republic. The Constitution, the Declaration of Independence, and its preamble gets so misquoted, misdirected, and misunderstood. The Constitution does not permit a damn thing. It reaffirms the rights. People, when are you going to understand that? Our leaders need to understand that. The Constitution doesn't permit anything. He says our Constitution may permit the death penalty, but our hearts should resist it. And in our modern world, where the human heart is so coarsened against the dignity and value of all human life, there is actually much good that can come from sparing the life of a criminal and causing him instead to live the rest of his life in penance for his crimes. That may be the only rational comment that I've read in this thing. The forcing of a person to live with one's self and one's actions until the end may far better be a punishment, may be a far better punishment than a quick and merciful death. Blessed Pope John Paul frequently made the case against the death penalty, arguing that the world had developed in such a way that, quote, society has the means of protecting itself without definitively denying criminals their chance to reform. Which, that comment by the Pope will fall into place erroneously on a story that I'm working on that you're going to hear. It'll probably be next week. And I'll have to highlight that and bring this quote in to remind everybody that this quote is absolutely ludicrous. Now you guys, oh, Jim, what are you saying? There, I've highlighted it. Professor Robert George has gone so far as to suggest that a plea for mercy for the life of Gosnell from the pro-life community might touch the hearts of heinous criminals such as he. Pro-lifers must realize that we can condemn Gosnell's murder and infanticide, and the crimes committed by abortionists every day without calling for their lives. Rather than focusing on Gosnell's punishment, we should instead turn our attention to the hellish world that legal abortion has created. The Gosnell trial brought to light just how hideous and gruesome second and third trimester abortions are, even when legal. This has forced us to come to terms with the reality that abortion still places women in danger. It has sown death into the bedrock of feminism, depriving women of knowledge that they have alternatives to midnight assaults on their wombs when they are pregnant and scared. Don't get me wrong, Gosnell's crimes rank among the most vile I've ever known to transpire in my short life. By clamoring for his death, but clamoring for his death perpetuates a culture of death. Pro-lifers must stay focused on saving babies, not killing their killers. An interesting perspective. This article, came out. Who printed it? Washington Post came out with this on a blog spot. And I guess it would give pause for contemplation. Yet, had the press carried the information that was laid out that came to these convictions, or that led to these convictions, and the average household was forced to see it or watch it happen, might not lend itself to that type of thinking. That the interesting thing was that there was no press there. They'll line up and wait to hear the conviction of him, but they won't line up to hear the gory details, because we as an American society don't like to listen to that. We like to listen to cases of rehab by artists checking into the Betty Ford Clinic. We, the people, like to spend our money on tickets to see the obscene, to see the extreme, and knowing quite well that in order to reach those entertainment levels, people have to be screwed up, drunk, full of drugs, to give us what it is we want to live vicariously through. And we have this forgiving heart to say, well, okay, he's in rehab, she's in rehab, gonna get cleaned up. And they go in, they're gone for 3-6 months, and they come back out and they hit the Tonight Show and the David Letterman show. Oh, how is it, and put up with whatever they have to put up with, because that's their career. They're back in the limelight. They're being talked about. They're being re-indoctrinated into society through our media. But our media never goes and covers stuff like this. I tried to explain what was going on, because I felt that at some point people around me needed to know and understand what this Yutz had done. And almost universally, people, talk to the hand. I don't want to hear about it. No good. Nope. But yet it was going on. This is a dose of reality. This crap goes on. This guy was so far over the edge, which, like I said, is going to lead to the story that I'm working on. I'm teasing you guys right now. I'm telling you. I got to put this over here by the story. Put that by source material by the story. I'm not going to get into it, but I'll get into it in the story. The other article here, convicted Pennsylvania abortion doctor gets life in prison. This is a standard AP spread. 72-year-old Dr. Kermit Gosnell was convicted Monday on first-degree murder. That's premeditated murder. First degree. In the deaths of the babies who were delivered alive and killed with scissors. In a case that became a flashpoint in the nation's abortion debate, former clinic employees testified, and they cut the deal with the prosecutors to throw this guy under the bus so that they didn't have to. Yet they stood there and held their jobs. See, this is the part that I have a lot of problem with. Former clinic employees testified that Gosnell routinely performed illegal abortions past Pennsylvania's 24-week limit, that he delivered babies who were still moving, whimpering, and breathing, and that he said his assistants dispatched newborns by snipping their spines, as he referred to it. Prosecutors agreed to 2 life sentences without parole, and Gosnell was to be sentenced Wednesday, that's today, in the death of the third baby, an involuntary manslaughter conviction in the death of a patient, and hundreds of lesser counts. Prosecutors had sought the death penalty because Gosnell killed more than one person. And, okay, I'm not going there. And his victims were especially vulnerable given their age. But Gosnell's own advanced age had made it unlikely he would ever be executed before his appeals ran out. My personal editorial on that is, so what? Other than we have to pay to keep him alive either way. We got to spend more tax dollars keeping this life alive. Gosnell has said he considered himself a pioneering inner-city doctor who help desperate women get late-term abortions. Defense lawyer Jack McMahon said before the sentencing deal that his client's bid for acquittal was a battle. The media has been overwhelmingly against him. What media? There hasn't been jack doodly squat said about it, except in the social networks. But I think the jury instead listened to the evidence, and they found what they found. The gruesome details of Gosnell's operation came out more than 2 years ago during a grand jury investigation of prescription drug trafficking. Aren't it funny how all of these little things kind of get tied together? Authorities raiding Gosnell's clinic for drug instead found bags and bottles of fetuses, including jars of severed feet, along with blood-stained furniture, dirty medical instruments, and cats roaming the premises. Is anybody listening to me old enough to remember any of the concentration camps in World War II? Partisans on both sides of the nation's polarized abortion debate were quick to weigh in after the verdict. Abortion foes said the case helped to illustrate the disturbing reality of abortion. This has helped more people realize what abortion really is, said David Osteen, executive director of the National Right to Life Committee. He said he hopes the case results in more states passing bills that prohibit abortion once the unborn child can feel pain. Supporters of the legalized abortion said the case offered a preview of what poor, desperate young women could face if abortion was driven underground with more restrictive laws. That begs the question of our moral fiber in America today. Kermit Gosnell has been found guilty and will get what he deserves. Now let's make sure these women are vindicated by delivering what all women deserve across a full range of health services, including safe, high-quality, legal abortion care, said Liz G. Hogue, president of NARAL Pro-Choice America. Pennsylvania authorities have failed to conduct routine inspection in all of its abortion clinics for nearly 15 years by the time Gosnell's facility was raided. In the scandal's aftermath, 2 top slated health officials were fired. Oh, wait a minute, there's that word. You're fired. And Pennsylvania imposed tougher rules for clinics. During the trial, Gosnell provided a solitary figure from beginning to end, with no friends or relatives in the courtroom, despite the fact he's been married 3 times, has 6 children, nearly all of them adults. Gosnell did not testify and called no witnesses in his defense. But McMahon branded prosecutors as elitist and racist for pursuing his client. God almighty. A racist who is black and whose patients were mostly poor minorities. So since when does the term poor minorities relate directly to being a racist? That statement in and of itself is a racist statement. And that lawyer should be disbarred, if not permanently, for at least some time, to let him think about how his words affect people. He classified, unknowingly, that's my comment, is he's classified these mostly poor minorities as black, elitist, a subculture, and racist, calling them black. I wanted to be an effective, positive force in the minority community, Gosnell told the Philadelphia Daily News. I believe in the long term I will be vindicated. Gosnell was also convicted of infanticide, racketeering, and more than 200 counts of violating Pennsylvania's abortion laws by performing third-term abortions or failing to counsel women 24 hours in advance. That's like a drive-through. Prosecution experts said one of the babies was nearly 30 weeks along when the abortion took place and was so big that Gosnell allegedly joked that the baby could walk to the bus, quote unquote. A second baby was said to be alive for 20 minutes before a clinic worker snipped the neck. A third was born in a toilet and was moving before another clinic employee severed the spinal cord, according to testimony. That's what this boy did. A fourth baby let out a whimper before Gosnell cut the neck, prosecutors alleged. Gosnell was acquitted in that baby's death, the only one of four in which no one testified in seeing the baby killed. The defense also contended that the 2009 death of a 41-year-old Mongar of Woodbridge, Virginia, a Bhutanese immigrant who had been given repeated doses of Demerol and other powerful drugs to sedate her and induce labor, was caused by unforeseen complications and did not amount to murder, as prosecutors alleged. Bernard Smalley, a lawyer for the woman's family, said he now hopes to bring some sense of justice and quiet to this family that's been going through so much. Well, there you have it. That's not really a positive note to end on, but it's our real world. It's our dose of reality. And at times I am sorry to say that those people live in my world, in my country. Because, again, that type of person is pure evil. In my opinion, has an extremely distorted, in my opinion, again, incomprehensible view of humanity. Lacks humanity. Sociopath. Self-indulging. Obviously, he was making a living doing it. I don't know what other medical services he provided through this clinic. And at some point, I don't care. All I can say is that I'm glad it is closed down. I am sorry that we will have to pay to have this person exist until his end. But again, I am happy to say that he no longer can do the things he's been doing. Simple question. He may have very well killed a patriot. A future patriot that might have become the president of my America. Who will say? Who knows? Who knows? And with that, again, not on a very happy note, but that's what the administration coddles. Wants to disarm people, coddles these pro-abortion people, left unchecked. Once again, a government that fails miserably to execute what it promises to do. Well, we'll make a new law, but then nobody goes and looks or enforces it. The article made a comment. The abortion clinics have been unchecked for what, 15 years? Let me go back. I'll get my numbers correct. Uh, 15 years. Pennsylvania authorities had failed to conduct routine inspections of all of its abortion clinics for 15 years. Do you understand? Do you understand now, Pennsylvania? Your job needs to be solely this. You have 15 years of employees not doing their jobs, which allowed this to continue to happen. Does the term "you're fired" mean anything to you? Does this mean we have to be compassionate to the people who they took our money and didn't do their jobs? I think not. As I always say at the end of the day, no matter what we talk about, however good or bad it is, and there's a lot of great stuff in this world, it's just not all bad. Just I like to talk about bad stuff to open up some eyes, maybe. Open up the ears, open up the eyes, get you activated, get involved in the process. It is always the process, good or bad, that will make or break any situation. God love you. God bless you. Be good to each other, because there's really nothing else when it's all said and done. That's all we got. Just us. Yeah, there may be somebody else out there, but we all know there's somebody watching us. Like I said, with that, I'll bid you adieu. Have a great day. It's shaping up to be a great day at Lake Wish I Be Gone here. Another beautiful day. I'm sitting in the shorts in the studio in the bunker. Lake Wish I Be Gone looks to be about 70 degrees outside. If it keeps going like this, I may have to go jump off the end of the pier. And then you can say, well, Just Jim is all wet. God bless. We'll talk to you tomorrow. Be good. Take care of each other. Until then, adios.
Getting back to school, I remember a teacher that I had. Now, I went through the 7th grade. I went to the 7th grade. I left home when I was 10 years old because I was hungry. And I used to, this is true. I work in the summer and I go to school in the winter. But I had this one teacher. He was the principal of the Harrison School in Vincennes, Indiana. To me, this was the greatest teacher, a real sage of my time, anyhow. He had such wisdom. And we were all reciting the Pledge of Allegiance one day. And he walked over, this little old teacher. Mr. Laswell was his name. Mr. Laswell. And he says, I've been listening to you boys and girls recite the Pledge of Allegiance all semester. And it seems as though it's becoming monotonous to you. If I may I recite it and try to explain to you the meaning of each word. I, me, an individual, a committee of one, pledge. Dedicate all of my worldly goods to give without self-pity. Allegiance, my love and my devotion to the flag, our standard, oh glory, a symbol of freedom. Wherever she waves, there's respect, because your loyalty has given her a dignity that shouts freedom is everybody's job. United. That means that we have all come together. States. Individual communities that have united into 48 great states. 48 individual communities with pride and dignity and purpose. All divided with imaginary boundaries, yet united to a common purpose. And that's love for country. And to the republic, a state in which sovereign power is invested in representatives chosen by the people to govern. And government is the people. And it's from the people to the leaders, not from the leaders to the people, for which it stands. One nation, meaning so blessed by God, indivisible, incapable of being divided, with liberty, which is freedom, the right of power to live one's own life without threats, fear, or some sort of retaliation. And justice, the principle or qualities of dealing fairly with others. For all, which means, boys and girls, it's as much your country as it is mine. And now, boys and girls, let me hear you recite the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Since I was a small boy, 2 states have been added to our country, and 2 words have been added to the Pledge of Allegiance, under God. Wouldn't it be a pity if someone said that is a prayer, and that would be eliminated from schools too?
Okay.
You're listening to WPEG, your PEG content provider.
I'd like to call to order the meeting of the Technology Committee. The meeting has been properly posted. We are ADA accessible and will make accommodations accordingly. Would entertain a motion to approve today's agenda with the order of the items at my discretion.